Hello there, welcome to Club 2020 Daily, coming to you live from Stratford, East London, every morning with all the latest on the Europa and Champions League knockout tournaments. Woof, it's not the greatest of summer days, is it? That's our position, that box on top of the BT Sports studio, from where we'll be bringing you all the latest from Germany and Portugal. On the agenda today, Man City in action in the Champions League quarter-finals tonight, and above all, last night in Lisbon, to paraphrase Julius Caesar, 8-2, brutal.
So here are the superstars, Barcelona and Bayern Munich. Thomas Muller on target. Oh, it's been hacked into his own net. David Alaba. Perisic. Oh, it's in. They might be in for another one. And it's Serge Gnabry. Drilled in towards Muller. There is number 4. Suarez is in. Absolutely brilliant. Bayern Munich get 5. Coutinho's cross, and he's got one at last. Robert Lewandowski. Coutinho, and there is another one. It's 8, and it's absolutely embarrassing for Barcelona. A night we'll never forget.
Well, so much to talk about from that game. That's the situation now in the Champions League. We've got PSG. They've gone through from their quarter-final on Wednesday. They'll be taking on RB Leipzig, who put out Atletico Madrid. Bayern are joining them in the semi-finals. Will they be facing there Man City or Lyon? We'll find that out tonight. Meanwhile, from Sunday, we've got the Europa League semi-final. Sevilla taking on Man United. That'll be Sunday night. And then Inter up against Shakhtar Donetsk on the Monday. Tuesday and Wednesday, then, it's those Champions League semi-finals. What a wonderful fortnight of football it is being. Drama, excitement, pain, humiliation for some. Andy Brassell's here with us. None of that for you. Andy, lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
Top journalist and broadcaster, an all-round football expert. As a man who's seen so much football over the years, when was the last time you saw a game like that? And don't say Southampton last December.
I think I'd have to say 2014, of course, with Thomas Muller being the obvious link. It was interesting, actually, James, hearing him talk about it afterwards and him saying it was nothing like the game when Germany played against Brazil, because that was a shock to all of us on the pitch, where he said this time we knew what we wanted to do to Barcelona and we went out and did it. It was far more us doing it rather than it just happening. The way he was talking about it is if when Germany rolled over Brazil, they knocked on the door and it fell off its hinges. But,
yeah,
you know, it's the fact that this is very in character with what Bayern did. I think there was a little bit of 2014 still, because for those people who have watched Bayern a lot this season, I think it's apparent that that was Bayern playing at maybe 65, 70% of their capacity. And really, I think for the rest of the world, if you've not watched Barcelona regularly over the last couple of years, you will think those of us who've been saying they've been in profound crisis for a while now, we're actually not mad.
Right, yeah, a crisis that to an extent has been masked by the excellence of the likes of Leo Messi, but it seemed like the magic had a little bit dried up last night. We're going to talk much more about this game from Bayern's perspective, from Barcelona's perspective, and what needs to be done then. Of course, nothing scarier right now than the boys from Bavaria. Man City could be facing them next if they get through against Lyon. That game's coming up tonight. But with that game being today, and with every single Man City game potentially right now being David Silva's last for the club, we're making our poll today on the social media. Which is Manchester City's most important player of the last decade? Is it the Spanish midfield magician David Silva? Is it Sergio Aguero, Yaya Toure perhaps, or the much-missed Vincent Kompany? Do get in touch. You can let us know via the comment section on YouTube or with the hashtag Club2020. And you can also use that hashtag for any comments or questions you have. Andy, what do you reckon? What would you be answering on that poll?
Well, instinctively, I would say Aguero. Obviously, a lot of people are going to go for David Silva for aesthetic reasons. I tend to think Yaya Toure is dreadfully underrated, so important to those first couple of titles.
OK. Much more Man City chat on the way. But, of course, let's move on now to what happened yesterday. You'd need 2 or 3 programmes, I think, to cover every aspect, every ramification of the 8-2 defeat of Barcelona by Bayern Munich. But this is what the Spanish papers were saying this morning. Starting off with the Madrid press, Marca with "it's shameful," and they touch on the fact that it means there's no Spanish sides in the semi-final for the first time in 13 years. The other Madrid paper, AS, they are talking about historic humiliation. A talking ass, always good. Revolution at the club is what they're predicting. In Catalonia, the main sports paper, El Mundo Deportivo, going with a funereal front page, and the headline there, it's a shameful end to an era. German press, meanwhile, as you can imagine, euphoric. And Thomas Muller in there saying that that game yesterday was more fun than the Minnerzau when they did Germany. But what happened then yesterday, Andy?
Well, I think Bayern knew what they wanted to do early on. And the interesting thing about that goal there is how Robert Lewandowski, who looked like for a lot of the game he was so desperate for a goal, Müller thanked him for not snatching at the chance and giving it to him early on. And I think you can see the team play of Bayern here. The connection between these players is something that Hansi Flick has been really important in bringing through. The respect that he has from the players is amazing, and it's because he thinks they're capable of playing like this, because Niko Kovac, his predecessor, always said this team can't press, this team can't play with high intensity. Well, they've proved him emphatically wrong over the Hansi Flick era.
Just extraordinary. By the time it got to 3 or 4, Barca's heads were gone, but at the start it actually looked like they had a chance of springing that rather dangerous high back line that Barca were using.
Yeah, they're a little bit cavalier in those early stages, Bayern, and of course they're so used to playing the game in the other team's half. I do wonder how the game would have gone with a slightly younger Barcelona. Obviously they would have been better, but just a little bit more athletic.
Right.
You felt that Barcelona were a little bit plodding, and maybe with a bit more pace could have taken advantage of some of that space behind them.
Well, everyone's talking about it being the end of an era for this Barcelona, a team that has defined footballing excellence for so many of us for so many years, but that's all done for now. Now, last time they had this kind of a reboot, I guess you maybe go back to, 2008, Pep Guardiola coming in and deciding, I'm going to clear out the likes of Ronaldinho and Deco and other big names. But he had an incredible generation of talent coming through from La Masia, including Iniesta, Xavi and Leo Messi. This time around, how do you even begin to sort this team out?
It's hard, and the fact is they've got so much money tied up in unsuccessful signings, like Coutinho, of course, but also Moussa Dembélé and Antoine Griezmann. You know, a lot of people have said, how can you leave players like that on the bench? Because they're not doing it.
Right.
And Dembele's not played in 6 months.
The graphic there showing the figures involved. I mean, it's extraordinary the amount of money they have been spending, pretty much to make the team worse. The top 3 players there are the most expensive signings they've ever made. 3 of the top 6 in football history anywhere from any club. All 3 of those top 3, Coutinho, Griezmann and Dembélé, started on the bench yesterday. One of them came on and scored 2 goals against them.
It's extraordinary. It's the final kick up the backside for Barcelona. But like I said before, there's been a lot of anger directed to the president, Josep Bartomeu, for a very long time now. His tenure comes to an end next year. He's going to announce in the next couple of days when the elections are going to happen. Now, according to the statutes of the club, the earliest point is March. I don't really see how a lame duck president can carry on until March. And obviously, it stops them rebuilding in the meantime, because the problem doesn't start and end with the coach and the players. How
about a lame duck coach, Setien? Everyone's agreed now he's going to be going. Problem is, who's going to come in his place?
Well, I think the obvious one is Mauricio Pochettino, because he's someone who would get to build and do what he does, but on a far bigger scale. I mean, he doesn't want the same sort of job that he had at Spurs, but he gets to do it in a far more high-pressure environment. And, of course, he's rode back significantly on that idea that he would never do it because he's an Espanyol guy.
Last time he was asked about that, he said, I don't know how I would respond now. But it's interesting, some of the other names on that list. Xavi, who was Barcelona's dream, but he took a step back last year, perhaps realising the amount of rebuilding that would need to be done at the club. Ronald Koeman, of course, former player. Marcelo Bielsa, sorry, Leeds fans, but it's true, he has been mentioned in conjunction with the club, and you can see how that might work. And Nuno Espirito Santo as well might fancy a stint at the Camp Nou. There's so much to be done. One of the big questions as well, if Barcelona are going to be starting this period of rebuilding, is what that means for Leo Messi. It's always been unthinkable, the idea of him in another shirt, but looking at his performance last night, looking at his body language last night, and with, by the way, the press in Italy increasingly talking up talks of a kind of Cristiano Ronaldo-esque move to Serie A, can you see him deciding to spend his last few years somewhere more successful?
To me, it still feels unlikely. I think you've got to look at the fact that players, when they get into their 30s now, because they're so incredibly wealthy by that point, I think they have the feeling that family happiness is a lot more important. It's clearly that's his home. It has been since he was 12. His young family is there, and he's very much a family guy. You know, people talk about him and have talked about him in the way that Barcelona has run or hasn't run as some sort of dictator. I think he wants leadership at the top of the club, which is what there isn't at the moment. But I think if he didn't care, he wouldn't be saying so much publicly. But because he wants to be with Barcelona, because he wants Barcelona to be so much better than they currently are, that's why he's coming out in the media a lot more than he's used to this season and saying what he thinks is wrong with the club.
One last thing on Barcelona, really briefly. Are we over-exaggerating because it was such a huge scoreline, the amount of work that needs to be done? There are still good players in that squad. They are still good signings, even if they didn't make the starting 11. With the right manager, could they come back next year?
It'll take work. I think they can win La Liga next year. I'm not sure if they can win the Champions League next year.
All right, well, it wouldn't be bad.
No, it wouldn't.
Win the league title. Already enough about Barca for now. Let's move on to the view from Germany, of course, with the Europa League underway. We've got Daryl Curry out there right now, and he met up today with Archie Rintut to talk about what's been a pretty good Champions League so far for the Bundesliga sides.
James, thank you very much indeed. Welcome to Cologne, where, of course, there's a little bit of focus on Manchester United, who play Sevilla here in the Europa League tomorrow night. But I'm with Archie Rintut, who is here really to review the newspapers, because there is no sign of anything to do with that game today, is there, Archie? It's all about Bayern Munich being celebrated all over Germany. Just how big have the headlines been?
Big. I mean, look at the size of that, for example. That's
Nice.
in Bild, the national tabloid here, which says 8-2, win of a century. And then they've given some ratings as well for the
I
players.
love a rating. Go for it, tell me. Surely everyone's top rating.
Well, the way it works in Germany is that it goes on a scale from 1 to 6. It's like how they do it in school. They call it Norton. And if you're getting a 6, you've had the worst game of your life. If you're getting a 1, then you've killed it. Only 3 Barcelona players didn't get a 6. They were Sergio Roberto, Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez. And surprisingly, there were 4 Bayern players who didn't get a 1. David Alaba even got a 3, so he's been punished for his own goal there.
Seems a little bit harsh.
It is
After
a bit.
an 8-2 result, and I bet Messi's never had bottom marks in his life.
No.
He has now. Who knows the knock-on effect? The Spanish press this morning, the absolute polar opposite, of course. It's a devastation of Barcelona, but continue with the German side of it, please.
Well, I was going to say, you mentioned Lionel Messi there. Express, the Cologne local tabloid, which you can usually see screaming off the front of every street corner with the boxes of the newspapers. Adios, Messi. And then 8-2, just a little reminder there. Bayern beating up Barca. And you can see a little bit of a really quite sad Lionel Messi.
Yes,
But
yes. And I think rubbing salt in the wounds was Coutinho as well, right?
Very much so. I mean, Coutinho was apologetic in his celebrations as well. And I think one thing I would say is that in the post-match interviews, the local broadcaster here was asking Bayern if any of the players felt sorry for Lionel Messi. And all of the players said no. And Leon Goretzka even said that he quite enjoyed being able to have such a performance against him. So there's not a lot of sympathy here, but similar vibes to when Germany beat Brazil 7-1. Instead of looking at how great the performance was, there was kind of like this feel of, did they beat them too hard?
Yeah. How does it compare then, the press we're seeing today, to that historic result for Germany?
It's not quite on the same level. Like, the front pages were that bit much more euphoric, I would say, but it's still a sizable result.
It was, and that Alphonso Davies goal to Kimmich as well, full-back to full-back, kind of summed it all up, didn't it? He continues to get rave reviews out here, Alphonso Davies.
As Thomas Muller put it, the FC Bayern Roadrunner.
He said that to you, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah, there
he
you
did.
go, a little plug for you there.
You're very kind.
I am very kind. I think we're almost out of time, but I think, as they say, if you can't beat them, join them. The Germans are going so well in this Champions League. Should we go and have a bit of a celebration? The beer gardens were quite busy today. Do you know a good beer garden?
There's one behind us here.
Huh?
I actually have my birthday here.
Lovely. Should we go and max out the expenses?
If you say that's okay. That's all
James, I'm sure, will send some more money for us.
Yeah.
James.
Beer and curry. It's a great combination, of course, there with Archie Rintut, German football expert, and BT Sport reporter as well. You know, making these comparisons with the Minorizal, the infamous World Cup defeat of Brazil, Thomas Muller wasn't the only link with that game, because Hansi Flick was on the bench that day for Germany. as Jurgen Löw's assistant. He's come in now. He started off this season as assistant to Niko Kovac at Bayern. But since coming in December, he's proved what? The greatest managerial mid-season appointment of all time?
It's been quite incredible. But Bayern had a plan, and I think it says a lot for... We talked about the difference with Barcelona. Having some sort of stability upstairs is enormous, because Niko Kovac never asked for Hansi Flick as an assistant. They put him in there so he could be parachuted in at a moment's notice, just in case Kovac became untenable, as he did at the start of November when they lost 5-1 at Eintracht Frankfurt. And it was tough at first, because, you know, he started with Bayern in 7th place. There were a couple of league defeats early on to relative rivals in Leverkusen and Borussia Mönchengladbach. But I think the style of the football is really what's astonished people.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about 19 successive wins now, so the numbers are kind of undeniable, and they're literally unstoppable since we've come back from the hiatus.
Right.
But it is about Bayern feeling more like Bayern.
They certainly do, and they're getting more Bayern with every game that goes by, which is slightly worrying for the semi-final, whoever's going to be facing them there. One curious thing about yesterday's game was 155 goals they've scored this season. 54 of them have been by Lewandowski, but he only got one in the 8 they put past Barcelona yesterday, and that was it. He was extremely glad to get that, because, of course, he's chasing the Champions League record. He's on 14 for this season. He's slightly disadvantaged by the fact that they're only having one-legged games at this stage. The previous sort of 3 better than him are all Cristiano Ronaldo's, but he only needs 3 to equal those. You can see it happening.
Yeah, you can. I do think the perception, the not entirely unfair perception, is that Cristiano Ronaldo would be a lot more bothered about that record than Lewandowski, because the way that Lewandowski has contributed to Bayern this season, it's not just about the goals, it's about the fact that he's become more of a team player than he has at any point since he moved from Borussia Dortmund. It's about the fact that he helps out the younger players, he's a leader in the dressing room, because of course at one point he was in a bit of a sulk that he didn't get his move to Real Madrid.
Right.
Now he's got over that, and I think he sees himself as a Bayern lifer, and he's fully implicated in it.
Brilliant stuff. 11:15 in the morning. It's a little bit early to be showing you filth on TV, but I'm afraid we're going to have to, as we compare and contrast a couple of the assists from last night. There were 8 different assisters for the 8 different goals. That was Goretzka's for Gnabry, and it was insanely good, Andy.
Beautiful. Very round the corner. Maybe not quite as good as Marcel Sabitz's in the Europa League.
All right, interesting. Was it quite as good as this from Alphonso Davies?
Well, the way that Joshua Kimmich, the eventual goal scorer, put it, I think was quite good. He said, well, I felt guilty celebrating it because he did 99% of the work.
It looks like Barcelona felt guilty about tackling as well. The way Piqué backs off and lets that pass go through. But insane. I mean, the fact that it's the 2 fullbacks combining as well tells you something about Bayern.
It does, and I think it tells you something about Alphonso Davies, because so much of his attacking Arsenal has been the fact that because he's got that pace, because he's got that acceleration, he's been able to build up momentum from attacking from that deeper fullback position. And he's only a fullback since this season, remember. He arrived from Vancouver Whitecaps as a winger. What impressed me there is it wasn't about the momentum. He gets the ball quite deeper in the Barcelona half, and then uses his tricks to get past.
If there is a chink of light, if there is a source for optimism for whoever's going to be facing Bayern in the semi-final, it's the fact that that high line, that aggressive approach from their fullbacks does mean that there will be chances, as even Barca found early on in yesterday's game, for a speedy Raheem Sterling might have some fun with that. We'll see, because of course Man City have to get past Lyon to even begin to take on Bayern Munich, and that's a game that we'll be bringing you live on BT Sport this evening, coverage starting at 7. All right, touching on the subject of Man City, one of the standout moments from them in this campaign in the Champions League hasn't been scoring a goal, but stopping it. The moment back in the group stages when Kyle Walker had to don the gloves and go between the posts.
They're in trouble now. It's Ilicic running through. Oh, Bravo's brought him down. It's a red card. Claudio Bravo has been sent off. Well, the question is now who goes in goal.
Looks like Kyle Walker's going to go in goal. I can remember being on the side of the pitch and I took my shirt in. But I don't know why I took my shirt in, but I think it was just going back to me being like a kid playing on the, the estate that I was from. And goalkeepers always used to tuck the shirts in.
Kyle Walker, England right back, is now Manchester City goalkeeper.
For me, it was, I'm going to go on there, and if I let one in, okay, I'm going to be disappointed, but I could be an hero and could save, the free kick that they was facing.
Kyle Walker's ready. Oh, he saved it. Took him a couple of goes, but he got it.
It was too obvious that I'm trying to waste a little bit of time. Then I've started bouncing it. Then I've told the lads to get up. But it was a good experience, you know, seeing the play from way back there. It does feel a lot different. Something that I don't want to rush back and do again. But as I said before, if called upon, I'll go in there for a bit of banter.
That was brilliant from Carl Walker. Of course, usually it's fun when an outfield player goes between the posts because it goes badly. Like, for example, Harry Kane back in the Europa League. This is years ago, what, 2014, I think? He'd scored a hat-trick in this game. This was against Astris Tripolis. And then had to go in net. And, oh, I'm glad Roy Keane wasn't watching that.
Well, they were 5-0 up at the time.
Right.
So I think he just about got away with it. He's probably a bit overawed wearing the great Hugo Lloris's shirt.
OK. Hashtag Club 2020 is the way to get in touch with us. We are running a poll as ever today. It is, who is Man City's most important player of the last decade? Ooh, Sergio Aguero, which was your pick, actually. And he's currently running away with that. I thought there'd be more of a sentimental vote for David Silva, such an influential player in bringing them onto another level. Quick reaction here. Raj says, for me, it is Silva. He's the perfect 10 that any team needs. D-Man says, I'm going to go for Aguero or his goals. Mayor Ahmed says David Silva because he literally defined Man City's midfield elegance and deadly counter-attack. Super stuff. More of that probably on the way when we get into part 2 of the show. We're going to take a very quick break now, though. On this slightly less sultry day in Stratford. Coming up alongside some more glorious scenics of East London and its cobwebs. We'll also be talking about Man City. They are now in Lisbon. How long will they be there, though, with Lyon on the way tonight? We'll be talking about that. To take us to the break, though, now, here's Andrew Mensah with another of his questions.
Yes, guys. Now, Manchester City only have one player in their current squad to have played in a Champions League final. The question is, can you name him? Tweet us at hashtag Club 2020.
Bayern could have scored more. And we said last week, didn't we? We said Bayern will out-football Barcelona.
Yeah.
When we won the Champions League, we didn't try and out-football Barcelona because you couldn't. Yeah. Now you can. You know, Suarez and Messi are looking around thinking, I miss Iniesta, I miss Xavi, I miss Puyol, because those guys aren't there for them anymore.
There isn't that quality in that squad now, is there?
No,
and the quality that is there are the players that are well into their third. About 4 or 5 of them are 33.
Yeah,
average age is nearly 30.
Yeah, and that's crazy. But another big question is, what is Messi thinking? What's he thinking now in that change room, going home tonight? Is he thinking?
Well, he's probably thinking, I've got another year or 2 left in my career at that kind of level.
But does he want to spend it in that shirt at that club, given the performances and the way the squad is looking at the moment in comparison to other teams around Europe? So it's a big question, I'm sure, that he'd probably be thinking about.
Do you think he should leave?
He can't wear another shirt, can he? But,
well, he can.
Why not?
But the thing is, if you look at the young man that came on, Ansu Fati, he played great. But he's a 17-year-old kid, you know. So the gap between Messi and who's going to be next?
Well, that's what I mean. For the next 2 or 3 years, you can't see them being successful.
No, you can't. De Jong's not ready.
Has he got the time to sit there and wait?
No, he doesn't. No.
Football's a game that goes and comes and goes very quick in your life. So these next 2 years, where he's still going to be, he's going to have the power to influence games the way he does. Is he going to want to be doing that? Not really competing for the big titles? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how long Setien will last. I suspect not that long after a result like this.
Well,
a season like this.
We saw what happened with Ronaldo, you know, and he tried to carry that Juventus team. They didn't have anything in the tank. Sarri got the sack the next day. You know, I think for Setien, that's probably his last game. The way that they play, that's got to be his last game.
Who should they go for? Someone, you know, and who can come in and who can turn that team, that aging team, back into a major force? It looks like it's got a massive amount.
It's a massive job. I mean, there'll be someone cleaning his desk right now as we speak, I'm sure. Yeah. And I think that it was almost a poison chalice before he even got there because of the recruitment. I thought that was going to be someone's Achilles heels, whoever came into the job. But who goes in there now? Xavi, has he just signed a new deal? He's the club he's at in Qatar. He's someone maybe they want to groom.
Or Pochettino, he's available. I know he said he was player at Espanyol and manager at Espanyol, and then he obviously has always said I wouldn't manage Barcelona. But the last time he said that was 5 years ago, and he's been out of work for a little while.
Thing is, though, I think if you look at the way Liverpool play and the way Bayern play today, you need a bit more power in there. You need a bit more pace in there. You know, it's great to get the ball to feet and play and play and play.
It doesn't matter who's in charge at the moment, though, does it?
That's what I mean. They need to get some of those attributes into the side. Look, they got Ansu Fati, they got Dembele if he's fit. They got some really good flair players to go around Messi. But defensively, you can't concede 8 and expect to compete. You just can't.
And the game changes. We've had that time of that era of the tiki-taki football that Barca were playing.
More dynamism now, isn't
and now that energy, fitness, along with that ability to play. It's not just about fitness and about running off the ball, etc. It's about you have that, but balanced with the ability to play. Because like we looked at Bayern, the balance in their team in terms of they can turn it on in terms of passing and great football and great movement and rotations, but also if you want to go toe-to-toe physically with them, I think they can stand up.
Whistle. And of course you focus on Bayern Munich, who have scored 8 goals, and Hansi Flick will celebrate. 2 for Müller, 2 for Coutinho, and goals for Perisic, Gnabry, Kimmich, and of course Robert Lewandowski. But it was an embarrassing night for Barcelona, a weak capitulation here in Lisbon in the Champions League, and the ramifications and the repercussions will be loud and long. It's a long way back for a very proud club, and you wonder what the next stage is going to be for them. They'll head back to Barcelona hanging their heads in shame, and Bayern Munich will head to the semi-finals, and they are the team that everybody fears. Full time in Lisbon, a night we'll never forget. Barcelona 2, Bayern Munich 8.
Well, just hearing that scoreline read out by Darren sounds quite extraordinary, doesn't it? 8-2, Bayern Munich against Barcelona. You know, 2 of the giants of the game, but Barcelona were picked apart this evening by an excellent Bayern Munich performance, certainly going forward. It's at the end of an era for a lot of this Barcelona team. It certainly feels that way. It's probably the end of a very short era for their coach as well, you would imagine, after that. Probably the only saving grace for Barcelona is that there were no...
Welcome back, everybody. Boy, the weather sure changed, hasn't it? But what hasn't altered is our commitment to bring you all the latest on this phenomenal fortnight of football that we're witnessing in Germany and in Lisbon. Just before the break, Andrew Mensah was asking us on the subject of Champions League and Man City, who is the only member of the current Man City squad to have appeared in a Champions League final. Our guest today here in the studio, Andy Brassel. What do you think the answer is?
I had to rack my brains a lot for this one, and then I was thinking back to Kyle Walker. It's Claudio Bravo, isn't it, for Barcelona?
It's not Claudio Bravo for Barcelona.
It's not?
No, it's Ilkay Gundogan from the Wembley final, 2013. There you go.
Well, I never.
Well, indeed, you never. That's the first time I've asked Andy a question, and he hasn't known the answer. I'm a little bit disappointed. Anyway, love to get your thoughts on the poll we're running, which is #Club2020. Who is the most important player of the last decade for Manchester City, and still looking like a plebiscite for Sergio Aguero. But if you have a different opinion, do let us know via YouTube or with that hashtag on Twitter. Man City, of course, facing Lyon tonight in Lisbon in the last of the Champions League quarter-finals for a place in the semi against Bayern. Also there in the Portuguese capital, and with a lot to talk about, Des Kelly and Steve McManaman.
It's one of those mornings when you wake up and you think, did that really happen last night? We've had a few of those, but I'm afraid, Barcelona fans, it really did happen. To hammer home the whole horror of the night is a former Real Madrid player. Steve McManaman's here alongside us. Your phone was busy last night when we were in the bar.
Yeah, well, look, I'm on a WhatsApp group with about 30 ex-Real Madrid players.
Is it called the Galacticos?
I forget what it's called. Something along those lines, says. And the jokes and all the funny pictures of Piqué and Messi and all that were all going round, and they were all not complimentary. Let's say that.
No, but let's have a look at the papers.
Yes,
then.
well, this is a Spanish, a Real Madrid-based newspaper, but it actually doesn't matter. This says embarrassing for Fuente, shameful. I mean, they go to town on them. But what I would say is that we've got some Barcelona-based newspapers, and they're all the same. The headlines were easy to write last night. It was a disgrace.
That will never be forgotten. As has historic humiliation, and it also points out that there will be unforeseen consequences of this result. You can see them, though, yeah?
Yes, of course. I think the president, who gets voted in every 4 years, if people don't know, he's on the verge of losing his job and his role as president of Barcelona, which is an esteemed role, as you could rightly say. The manager will go. There's talk about Eric Abidal, who's just being appointed as sporting director. He'll go for his part of what's gone on, because this is a wider range this year. It's been a mess, Barcelona, internally.
And the players, of course, all their heads are on the block. Piqué at least faced the cameras last night. He used the words, embarrassment, disaster. He said the club was at rock bottom and he offered to quit. So there's going to be a clear out of this squad.
Yeah, there has to be. There has to be. It's an ageing squad. They looked slow last night, and it's going to take a number of years because the finances are a bit of a mess, as everybody knows.
Well, could Lionel Messi, this is a neat segue into Man City Lyon, could Lionel Messi join up with Pep Guardiola?
Well, before yesterday I'd have said no, but after the game and looking what's ahead, he's got 2 or 3 years left of his career, of his brilliant career. He might do a Cristiano, because if he spends it at Barcelona, he's going to be stuck doing nothing, and they're not going to be successful. So it's going to be something he has to think about.
Well, it's Man City Lyon, of course, tonight. L'équipe says in its perfect French, so exciting. I mean, it isn't exciting. Every game's been exciting.
It's been brilliant. I mean, we were building up to last night, and we got a great game. And of course, Manchester City being our English team, we're really looking forward to them. They're in great form. Since the restart, they've been dominating. They've scored loads of goals in the Champions League. They've been excellent, and I'm looking forward to it.
But the Guardian says, Guardiola says, one-leg ties help the underdogs. I think that's a good thing.
I can see that thought process. But what I would say is that PSG have come through. Leipzig, the better footballing team, have come through. Bayern were the favourites last night. And I fully expect Manchester City to win tonight and join that illustrious foursome into the semi-finals of the Champions League.
We'll have plenty more to say about Manchester City Lyon. We are live in Lisbon from 7 o'clock tonight. Join us.
Definitely. Not going to miss that after what's been happening so far in this competition. Now, Club 2020 Daily is joined by French television and indeed French football expert Julien Laurens. Julien, thank you so much for being with us. How excited are the French about Lyon in the quarterfinals this evening against Man City?
They're very excited, as you saw on the front page of L'Équipe in English as well. So exciting this morning. It's not very often that we have two clubs in the quarterfinals, and it's even rarer. It never happened, actually, that we could have two clubs in the semi-final of the Champions League the same season. So it would be incredible for France and for Ligue 1 to have both PSG and Lyon in the semi-final. And I think the whole of the country really is behind Lyon for this game tonight. Of course, they're underdogs. Of course, City looks so strong and are by far favourite. But you can't write off Lyon. This is a Lyon side that plays with a lot of heart. It's well-disciplined, well-drilled, with talent pretty much everywhere on the pitch, and they really believe themselves that they could create another upset against City because it happened before already.
Right. Well, of course, they met, and this has been quite widely discussed by now, in the group stages of last season's Champions League. Lyon beat them at the Etihad and then had an even more impressive performance, arguably, in the 2-2 draw back at Lyon, Andy.
Yeah, they could have won both of those games. And a lot of those players are still there. I think the big difference, people will look at Fekir, especially after his goal at the Etihad. And, of course, he was within a whisker of signing for Liverpool. He was even in the shirt and did an interview for LFC TV before Liverpool got cold feet at the last moment. But some people, especially Spurs fans, I guess, will find it hard to believe after this season. I think the biggest loss since then is Tanguy Ndombele, especially in a game like this where you need some sort of level of control in midfield. Now, Lyon have reinforced their midfield in 2020, as Jules knows, with some really interesting young players, and that's something that could work for them too.
All right. Touch on more on those young players in a second or two, but Man City, for their part, have always had so much potential and have really struggled to make it count at the sharp end of this competition so far. To what extent do you think the second leg against Real Madrid, after that long wait to see if maybe Real Madrid might spring a surprise or turn the tables on them, how much will that represent a turning point for Man City in their belief?
Well, I think what's the most extraordinary thing, if you look at the second leg of this, I mean, it happened 5 months and 12 days, was it, after the first leg? If you were watching the games without context, you wouldn't find it difficult to believe that these two legs were 3 weeks apart, because there's almost no scene. And I think the interesting thing is people who watch the Premier League on a regular basis and live in England have always thought that Manchester City are among the Champions League favourites. What has changed since those two games is the rest of Europe has started to agree with people in England. And that is a huge step forward for Manchester City, and says a lot about their game management in those two games.
Right. Game management, that's the difference, is it?
I think so.
Knowing when to hold and when to fold.
Yeah, and there was no panic when Isco scored at the Bernabeu. There was no panic when Karim Benzema scored against the run of play. It didn't change the way they played. And,
right.
You know, people have accused Pep Guardiola of overthinking these big games, and it's a bit of a riposte from him as well.
OK. They're taking on a Lyon team that has caused some problems in the past. Can it happen again? And he was just touching on the incredible stream of talent they've had coming out of their academy, Jules, which has enabled this pretty, relatively small club to compete with the Super Cup. So they're the last kind of minnows in the tournament this year.
Yes, that's right. It's one of the best academies in Europe, without a doubt. And you can go back a very, very long time ago, and even more recently with Fekir, for example, with Alexandre Lacazette, for example, Karim Benzema, of course, that Andy just mentioned after his goal against Man City with Real Madrid. And then you have this sort of new generation coming through with Houssem Aouar, who's now had 2 very, very solid seasons with the first team, and Maxence Cacré, who is the new one, the new kid on the block, who's only 20, who is outstanding in terms of maturity and intelligence against Juventus in that second leg in Turin, who played very well as well against PSG in the French League Cup final the week before that. And we all expect him to start tonight again with Aouar and with Bruno Guimaraes, because the other good thing about Lyon is their scouting network and the way they do their recruitment. Tanguy Ndombele came from Amiens for pretty much nothing and was sold just a year later, as we said, for 6 times the price to Tottenham. And Bruno Guimaraes is another one like that, 22-year-old Brazilian international already. They beat Atletico Madrid for his signing, and he looks so classy and so good already that you know he's not going to last long at Lyon. Very, very soon, a much bigger club will poach him.
Okay. The 5-month layoff that they had, because, of course, the French season never got restarted, they've had 2 matches back from that. One was against PSG in the League Cup final in France, and they took PSG to penalties. Pretty good. And then they put out Juventus in the second leg of the last 16. They've come back in pretty good form, Andy.
Yeah, they have. And I think it says a lot about the age of the team, really, to be able to recover that athletic level pretty quickly. I mean, you were always expecting, well, I was always expecting Juventus to be able to run away from them in the last 20 minutes, 30 minutes of that game, but they didn't fold physically as well, which is very, very impressive indeed.
Huge result this for Lyon, making it into the quarterfinals, because we used to see them there quite regularly back when they were winning 7 titles in a row in Ligue 1. But times have changed, and this season, a total disaster for them early on. They fired Silvinho back in October. They've roared back under Rudy Garcia. This is Anthony Lopez, the keeper, running over to salute the fans in a kind of symbolic gesture. Of course, the fans weren't there, even if it might have sounded like they were on your TV. But Jules, what's behind that?
Well, I think Rudy Garcia found the right formation for this team with a 3 at the back. That's working really well. I think they created a real good team spirit, and Marcelo did a long interview in L'Equipe today where he explains that really, especially since December onwards, and even with the pandemic, they managed to really create that sort of team spirit, that unity, solidarity between them. And you could see the way they play with so much heart. And it was exactly the case against Juventus, both in the first leg, really, in the second leg, where they defended so well, they played so well as a team. And I think you could have all the talent in the world. If you don't play as a team, you're not going to go anywhere. And you've got those talent with Memphis Depay, for example. But even Memphis has been far more collective on and off the pitch than he'd ever been before, and not just with the armband, but overall, I think, as a player and as a teammate. So for me, the biggest asset they will have tonight against City is that togetherness and that spirit, the heart they play with, and that could take you very, very far.
Brilliant. Speaking of Memphis, Jules, he's been one of the benefits of this 5-month layoff, because he had what looked like a season-ending injury. The fact that the league was suspended, the long break between games means he's come back. He's scored in 6 consecutive Champions League matches going into tonight's game. That's not all he's been up to. Of course, he's also been busting out his music career. Let's enjoy a little bit of Memphis in action. Here we go. This is Fall Back, Andy, as you know. And it's an interesting... he's got a great record in football. Off it, is it a great record? Not for me to say.
No, I don't know if it's for any of us to say, but it's in the noble tradition of Dutch footballers, and especially wide players, making a sortie into hip-hop, isn't it?
OK, all right then.
Well, I'm not sure if it's up there with Royston Drenthe, but that's just my opinion.
Is it outstanding? That's the question for me. Anyway, let's move on, because alongside all the drama in Germany and Lisbon, it's the middle of August, and that means the transfer window is hotting up, even if the temperature chart isn't right now. Let's get the latest on who's going where, for why, and for who, and for how much, from Fabrizio Romano.
Chelsea are really pushing to get Kai Havertz. They are working now with Bayer Leverkusen. After Bayer Leverkusen exit for the Europa League, they can now have new talks to find an agreement. Bayer Leverkusen always asked 100 million euro to sell Kai Havertz, but Chelsea are going to offer around 80 million euro to take the player, so they are in talks right now to find a total agreement. It's not easy as the Jadon Sancho situation, but the big difference between the one and the other one is about the Champions League. Kai Havertz wants to play the Champions League and he wants to join Chelsea. He's desperate to join Chelsea. He has a total agreement about this contract for 5 years to be a new Chelsea player. He already spoke also with Frank Lampard. So for sure, Kai Havertz wants to join Chelsea on this transfer market. Inter and Tottenham will speak again together about the situation of Tanguy Ndombele. He's the main target for Inter for the midfield. They want Tanguy Ndombele. They want to try again with the swap deal with Milan Skriniar offered to Tottenham. At the moment, Jose Mourinho said, okay, they are ready to listen for bids for Ndombele, but the main problem is the president of Tottenham, Daniel Levy. He asked 60 million euro to sell the player, or he will stay. He is not convinced to let him leave just 1 year after they signed him for 60 million euros. Also, this one to not be an easy deal, but for sure Inter will try again for Tanguy Ndombele.
Lovely stuff from Fabrizio Romano. It's a complicated transfer window. Nobody's quite sure what the finances are going to be like next year. People equally are waiting to see what happens in these Europa League and Champions League finals, eh, Jules?
Yes, that's right, and I think those two, especially, I think the Kai Havertz one will go through because I think the two clubs will find an agreement. And Ndombele is very interesting because he certainly doesn't want to stay, doesn't want to play for Jose Mourinho anymore. They had a huge clash back in June, and he's not interested in staying anymore. Daniel Levy can say whatever he wants. It would be, I think, crazy to keep a player who doesn't want to be there anymore. So I expect as well this one, whether it's Inter Milan or another club, to go through, and Tanguy Ndombele, whether it's a loan or a straight transfer, I don't think Tanguy Ndombele will be at Spurs next season.
Brilliant. All right, or not. We shall see. We shall see. Jules, thank you so much for being with us today. Look forward to catching up with you again soon. Before we go, though, quick update on who won our poll. Who was Man City's most important player of the last decade? Apparently it's Sergio Aguero. There you are. It's official now, Andy. Your choice, so you'll be happy with that. An update, if we can, quickly about what's happening in the Champions League and the Europa League. We've had 3 of the 4 quarterfinals. Tonight, it's the 4th one in the Champions League. Man City up against Lyon for a place in the semi-final against Bayern Munich. And then tomorrow, we're back to the Europa League. We've got the semi-finals coming. Man United up against Sevilla. Inter against Shakhtar on Monday. And then it's the Champions League semi-finals. Brilliant stuff. That's it, though, for today's show. We're back tomorrow at 11. Many thanks, Andy, for being with us. We'll see you soon. Man City Lyon tonight.
Manchester City launch again their search for the missing one, the telling one.
Manchester City are out of the Champions League. That is an absolute screamer! What a start for Tottenham Hotspur in Manchester. Oh, he's done it! It's been disallowed. Pep Guardiola can't believe it. It's a 5-star show by Manchester City's 5-star performers. Into Jesus! Oh, he squeezed it in! Sterling takes on Carvajal and goes down penalty. Up he steps and scores. The captain delivers in Madrid for Manchester City. Tucked away by Raheem Sterling. Oh, it's a brilliant finish. Gabriel Jesus. And it's another step along the road to Champions League glory.
Thomas, you got the man of the match ball. Congratulations. That wasn't a victory tonight. That was a complete destruction. How do you explain that?
Yeah, it's tough to explain.